As real estate professionals in Arizona, understanding property types is essential to providing competent representation to clients. Among the most common and complex types are multi-housing developments and condominiums. These property categories are governed by distinct ownership structures, rights, and statutory frameworks that directly affect how licensees handle listings, disclosures, and transactions. A deep understanding of these property types helps ensure compliance with Arizona law, including the Arizona Condominium Act under ARS Title 33, Chapter 9, and the various administrative rules overseen by the Arizona Department of Real Estate ADRE. Multi-housing developments generally refer to properties that contain more than one residential unit, such as apartment complexes, duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes. These properties are often held for investment purposes, producing rental income for their owners. Competent licensees understand the financial and operational factors that influence the value of multi-housing properties, such as rental rates, occupancy levels, maintenance costs, and property management obligations. For instance, an investor purchasing a 4-unit building in Tempe must evaluate not only the purchase price, but also the property's gross rent multiplier, GRM, capitalization rate, and potential liabilities under landlord-tenant laws. The Arizona Residential Landlord and Tenant Act, ARS, Title 33, Chapter 10, governs landlord and tenant relationships in such scenarios, and a licensee must be able to explain these obligations to clients or refer them to legal professionals for further guidance. A common scenario involves a licensee helping a buyer acquire a triplex, where the buyer intends to live in one unit and rent the other two. In this case, the property is considered both a personal residence and an income-producing asset. The agent must verify zoning regulations, local rental restrictions, and potential tax implications. Under ARS Section 32-2153A3, a failure to disclose material information, such as pending code violations or unpermitted units, could be considered negligence or misconduct. Competency also includes advising clients about the financing distinctions between owner-occupied and investment properties, since loan programs and down payment requirements differ. Condominiums, on the other hand, represent a unique form of ownership where individuals hold title to their specific unit but share ownership of common areas such as hallways, lobbies, pools, and parking lots. The Arizona Condominium Act, ARS Section 33-1201 through Section 33-1270, governs these communities and establishes clear rules for association management, assessments, and the rights of unit owners. Unlike multi-housing complexes, where one owner typically controls the entire property, condominiums distribute ownership among multiple parties, all of whom are members of a condominium association. A competent licensee representing a buyer in a condominium transaction must explain the implications of association membership. This includes the obligation to pay monthly assessments, comply with association bylaws, and abide by restrictions set forth in the Declaration of Condominium. For example, a buyer purchasing a condo in Scottsdale may be unaware that the association prohibits short-term rentals if the buyer's intent was to operate the property as a vacation rental. Failing to verify this restriction could lead to financial loss and legal disputes. The duty of care under R4-28-1101 requires that licensees confirm and disclose such material facts before the transaction is finalized. The condominium form of ownership also affects the financing and appraisal process. Lenders typically review the financial stability of the association, including its reserve funds and delinquency rate on assessments. If the association's reserves are insufficient, or if more than 50% of the units are non-owner occupied, certain financing programs, such as FHA or VA loans, may not be available. A competent agent must anticipate these issues early in the process and prepare their client accordingly, ensuring full compliance with the law and fiduciary duty obligations. A related property type that is often confused with condominiums is the planned unit development, PUD. In a PUD, owners hold title to both their individual lot and the land beneath it, while still sharing ownership of common areas maintained by an association. The distinction is subtle but significant. Condominium ownership stops at the interior walls of the unit, while PUD ownership typically includes the lot itself. Recognizing this difference is critical when drafting contracts, advising on title insurance, or explaining maintenance obligations. Competency also requires understanding disclosure obligations in multi-housing and condominium transactions. The seller must provide buyers with accurate information regarding the property's physical and financial condition, as well as association documents. Under ARS Section 33-1260, condominium sellers must furnish buyers with copies of association bylaws, financial statements, and pending litigation disclosures within 10 days of a purchase contract being executed. A licensee's role includes ensuring these documents are provided in a timely manner and that the buyer understands their significance. In addition, a licensee should be familiar with the concept of special assessments, additional fees levied by the association for major repairs or improvements, such as roof replacement or elevator upgrades. Failing to disclose or investigate special assessments could result in liability for the agent, as courts have ruled that such financial obligations materially impact a buyer's decision to purchase. In Barnes v. Lopez, 1985, the Arizona Supreme Court affirmed that material information affecting the value or desirability of a property must be disclosed, setting a standard for modern disclosure practices. Review summary: multi-housing and condominium properties present unique ownership structures, legal frameworks, and disclosure requirements that require specialized knowledge. Multi-housing properties are typically income-generating and subject to landlord-tenant laws, while condominiums involve shared ownership governed by association documents and the Arizona Condominium Act. Competency means understanding these differences, communicating them effectively to clients, and ensuring compliance with all disclosure and contractual obligations under ARS Title 33 and AACR 4-28-1101. A well-informed licensee helps clients avoid costly misunderstandings and promotes transparency throughout the transaction. Discussion: why is it important for licensees to understand the difference between condominium and multi-housing ownership structures? Answer: because the ownership rights, financing requirements, and legal obligations differ significantly, and misunderstanding these distinctions could result in misrepresentation or financial harm to the client. What disclosure obligations exist when selling a condominium in Arizona? Answer: sellers must provide buyers with association bylaws, budgets, financial statements, and notices of any pending litigation or special assessments under ARS Section 33-1260. How can a licensee demonstrate competency when representing a buyer in a condominium transaction? Answer: by verifying association rules, explaining financial responsibilities, confirming eligibility for financing, and ensuring that all disclosure documents are delivered as required by law. Closing remarks: understanding property types, such as multi-housing and condominiums, is a hallmark of professional competency in Arizona real estate. These transactions require not only technical knowledge, but also careful attention to statutory and contractual details. A licensee who can clearly articulate ownership rights, financing limitations, and association obligations demonstrates the level of expertise that clients expect and the law demands. Competence in these areas protects both clients and licensees, ensuring that every transaction is handled with accuracy, diligence, and integrity.